Creepypasta is not pasta that makes inappropriate jokes at the holiday dinner table,
Mamma mia!
but instead used as a blanket term for any and all things horror, scary, or creepy that was created from the internet. It is a rich and vast genre that has spawned thousands of stories, many of which dance around the line separating reality and fiction. And every so often, we find a story that leaves such a lasting impact that it will forever be ingrained into pop culture. Think back to when you were in middle school, or primary school, or whatever age you were when you Googled boobs. True story, our school library had a computer table in the middle of the room, and Anyway, we had pizza rolls and Paramore, weird combo, and we were just barely beginning our journey across the internet landscape. Chances are you might have seen an image floating across your screen, an image that upon further investigation has led you to an ancient story, a story that has earned its status as a legendary relic of the internet. It is the story of the Russian sleep experiment. It is a tale that still remains one of my favorite because it sort of checks off everything you want coming from a creepypasta. It got the horror elements, it got the mystery elements, it even plays into our fears of socialism. But I was still a young boy when I read this story. A little boy, still doing hard labor for school activities. And now that I'm older, wiser, and have my own computer, I've decided to look back upon this fond tale of mine. And I have to say, everyone seems kinda dumb. The entire experiment was about how long a dude cannot sleep, because the Soviets wanted to learn about college life, right? And according to the fine folks at Guinness World Records, the longest recorded time that a human has stayed awake was for 18 days, 21 hours, and 40 minutes by Robert McDonald. No relations. And he did it while doing a rocking chair marathon. The same strategy started by Maureen Western, who stayed up for 18 days and 17 hours. And yes, rocking chair marathon is literally just that. They were rocking back and forth on a chair for 18 days. So how long did the test subjects last in the Russian experiment? To answer that, let us time travel back to the year 1947. Soviet scientists have just developed a new type of gas that can prevent people from sleeping. Which is stupid because the Germans already developed a method for that. It was called using meth. Or they could have brought in Maureen in her rocking chair. So the military decides to test the gas on 5 political prisoners. They would lock them up in a room with food, water, and books. I don't know why books. I assume it was to prevent boredom, but chances are most of it were probably all state approved. The room had no cameras, so in order to observe the subjects, they set up a microphone inside the chamber and added a one-way porthole. Now, I'm no scientist. I never had the dexterous fingers needed for a chemistry lab. But shouldn't there be a control group in this situation? A second chamber, where there's no gas, just a professional upstairs neighbor. I'm pretty sure they can find a measly 5 more political prisoners to lock up. In any case, despite the poor foundations of this experiment, the researchers carried on. The first 5 days were uneventful. All they did was trauma dump on each other. No, Dmitri, I do not want to hear what you did at the school library. Over the next few days, the subjects began to develop severe paranoia and started whispering into the microphone. At first, the researchers thought it was just side effects of the gas. Or maybe, just maybe, it could be due to something as simple as sleep deprivation. But we can't be 100% sure. It's not like we have a control group. After 9 days, one of the subjects began to scream at the top of his lungs until he teared his vocal cords and could no longer speak. No one reacted to the screaming at first and continued to whisper into the microphone. But soon a second subject started to scream. But this time the non-screaming subjects began to tear the books apart, smearing the pages with their feces and covered the porthole, preventing anyone from seeing inside the chamber. Comrade Stalin's not gonna like hearing about this. The microphone whisperings also soon stopped. 3 days passed without a single sound. At first, the scientists were pretty confident they were alive because they were monitoring the oxygen levels consumed. On day 14, the scientists decided to break one of their rules and used the intercoms to force a reaction from the subjects.
Hello, comrades! Dmitri, are you still in there, you dirty dog? Anyway, we are sending soldiers in to check the microphones. Lie down flat, and as a reward for your cooperation, we will free one of you.
Suddenly, the microphone lit up, and a single voice came through, stating that they no longer wanted to be freed. However, the scientists and military personnel decided that they will indeed open the door starting on the 15th day. They removed the gas and filled the room with fresh air. But the subjects started freaking out about this and was screeching and begging as if their life depended on it. The soldiers who entered the room and saw what was inside started doing the same thing. They had discovered that 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive. Thank you, scientists in charge of watching oxygen levels. I hope you like Siberia. The surviving subjects had large parts of their muscles and skin ripped apart from their bodies to the point that their lungs and heart became visible through their ribs. The organs below the rib cage were also removed and placed on the floor. Upon further investigation, it became apparent that all the wounds were self-inflicted. Apparently, they were eating their own flesh. Was the Russian food really that bad, or was this also an effect of the gas? We'll never know because we have no control group. The soldiers tried to remove the subjects, but they fought back. They killed one soldier, slicing his throat. They ripped off the testicles from another soldier. They severely injured a third soldier, nearly severing his thigh artery. And another 5 soldiers died after committing suicide from seeing all of this. I don't know where they hired these guards from, but if they're getting their butts kicked by vitamin D deficient zombies, then I don't think they're very much qualified to guard this super secret research facility. Siberia! One of the subjects who fought back had his spleen rupture and bled out. The researchers tried to sedate him by injecting him with a morphine at 10 times the normal human dose. But the subject still kept fighting like cornered animals. Wouldn't 10 times that amount kill him? Were they trying to kill him? But the subject's heart still beated for 2 whole minutes before he gave out. And as he died, it just kept saying more, over and over. Only 3 subjects were alive, and they were restrained and brought to the medical facility. The most injured of the 3 was still able to fight back and nearly freed himself from the 4-inch wide leather straps and nearly overpowering the 200-pound Russian soldier on top of it. Meanwhile, an autopsy being conducted on one of the dead subjects showed that he had triple the normal oxygen levels and had broken 9 bones from the fight, but mainly from the forces of his own muscles. The second survivor, the one who first started screaming and became mute, agreed to surgery under the condition that they don't use anesthetics. Hard flex, my man, but alright. During the 6-hour procedure to put the guy's organs back, the doctor kept repeating how it was medically impossible for this man to be alive, and the terrified nurse stated that the subject would curl its mouth into a smile whenever their eyes would meet. Hey man, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. When the surgery ended, the subject attempted to mutter something out. The surgeon quickly grabbed his notepad and leaned in close to the subject's mouth, who gave a simple message: keep cutting. The 2 other subjects received the same surgery, also without anesthesia. Despite pumping them with paralytic agents, any sedative or injection would quickly be cleared by the body, and the subjects would go back to their usual behavior of laughing erratically and begging for the gas. When asked why they were mutilating themselves or why they wanted the gas, their only answer was that they must remain awake. You think they were binging Breaking Bad or something, but no, they're just quirky. While the subjects were restrained, everyone started to debate what they should do with them. The scientists considered euthanizing them, but was overruled by the ex-KGB commander who wanted to continue the experiment. Because after funding both the research and the gas, it would not be a loss if the military doesn't pull out. So they told the subjects they were going back into the gas, which caused them to stop struggling, and allowed the scientists to hook up EEG monitors on them. EEG monitor guy, meet oxygen monitor guy. What? You don't see him? Exactly. The subjects at this point were all struggling to stay awake. The first guy they wired up was rapidly blinking, trying to avoid hitting the pillow by his head. The scientist monitoring his brain waves would notice how it would sometimes flatline, as if he was repeatedly suffering brain death. But it proved pointless because the moment he touched the pillow, his eyes shut closed, his brain waves showing he had gone into deep sleep and then flatlined as his heart also stopped beating. This left only one remaining subject who could speak, and he was desperately screaming to be placed back into the gas, as his brainwaves began to show the same flatlining behavior. The commander ordered the 2 subjects to be sealed back in, along with 3 other scientists. One of the scientists that were picked drew his gun and shot the commander, and then the mute subject. As he pointed the gun on the last subject, he demanded to know what he was, what he turned into. The subject smiled and said, "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go into the nocturnal haven that we cannot tread." After a brief pause, the scientist aimed at the subject's heart and fired. As the EEG flatlined, his final words on the 15th day: "So nearly free." 15 days! Yet Robert survived for 18 and went on to build a life-size Viking replica out of popsicle sticks. And this photo is a Halloween prop for an insane asylum patient, meaning none of this was probably real, or rather, it shouldn't have been real. And despite the blatant, unethical, and immoral nature of the experiment that should have been stopped at several points throughout the observation period, we can take comfort that experiments like these exist only in the realms of internet fantasy. But like all stories, beneath its surface lies a hidden thread that ties it to the source of its inspiration, leaving the only question, which was truly scarier, the inspired work or the original whose true story remains hidden from us?